Welcome to Bob's Dungeon. My name's Bob. I'll be your host. 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, when it was announced, it was highly anticipated. Everyone was excited for it. Ready to go, ready to see what it had to offer. And then it came out. And it failed on a lot of people's expectations of what they wanted to see in the game and what they wanted it to do. Don't get me wrong, 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons still has its fans and its loyal followers, but for the most part, people didn't care for the game. And as a result, it failed. It went on for a while, but it didn't do too well. When it came out, I was excited. My friends were excited. My wife bought me a box set for it that had all 3 core rule books: Player's Handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, the Monster Manual, and a really neat sleeve. And that was pretty cool. And by the time I read up and was ready to run it, my friends had watched a bunch of reviews on it and decided that they didn't like it, so didn't get the chance to play. So I went ahead and bought more books for it, hoping to expand what I could do with 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And still, we never played it. So I got several books for it. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. One of those books. We're going to talk about the Player's Handbook 3 for 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. This book has 223 pages and a copyright of 2010. It was published by Wizards of the Coast, and all of the artwork in this book is in full color. It is pretty good. So let's go ahead and look at that artwork. All of the artwork in this book is in full color, and it's pretty decent to look at. There is a lot to like about the artwork in this book. Even though it's not an adventure book, there are a lot of action scenes to be found in this book. To use this book, what you're going to need is a copy of the core rule books for Dungeons & Dragons 4th edition, which consists of the Player's Handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the Monster Manual. You also need a full set of dice, which are a 20-sided die, a 12-sided die, preferably 2 10-sided dice for rolling both percentiles and tens, an 8-sided die, a 6-sided die, and a 4-sided die. This book presents you with brand new options at character generation for your game, and some details that you can add to your character as they advance levels. This book has a brand new power source known as Psionic that you can add to your game. It presents you with 4 new races to add to your game: the Githzeri, the Minotaurs, the Shadow Mines, and the Wilden. With those races, if you have all 3 of the Player's Handbooks for your 4th edition game, you'll have a total of 17 races to pick from at character creation, 7 of which are the classic races that were common in the 3 editions before this one. By the time you get the 2nd Player's Handbook for 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons, you'll have all of the races that could be found in the previous editions at character creation. The monster manuals also have write-ups in the back for some of the monsters that are in the books, so that you can play them as player characters. So the 17 number is just the 17 presented as starting races. With the monster manuals, of course, you have a lot more. After that, you get some new classes that you can add to your game. You got the Ardent, the Battle Mind, the Monk, the Scion, the Rune Priest, and the Seeker. With these new classes, you'll have a total of 24 classes that you can pick from at character creation if you have all 3 Player's Handbooks. With the addition of the 3rd Player's Handbook, you'll have all of the classes that were presented and all of the previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons before this one, which are 11 different classes total out of the 24 this will add to your game. This also has rules for a hybrid class for your game, which is kind of like multi-classing in a way, and it gives the full rules in here. There are new epic destinies and new skill powers that you can substitute for utility powers for your character, provided that they're proficient in that skill. It also gives you some new feats, and it gives you some superior implements and new magic items for your game that could be used with the classes and the power source that are represented in this book. It also has some racial paragon paths for you, for your game. And that's really about it for this book. Just gives you brand new options for your 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons game. And that's really about it. So it brings me to 3 questions. Would I play a character using the information from this book? And I'm going to have to say yes. If I was playing in a 4th edition game, I'd really be interested in trying my hand at playing a Minotaur. But, you know, I can get that in the other editions as well, but that's beside the point. Would I use this book in a game that I run? Again, I'm going to say yes. I'm probably not ever going to run a 4th edition game, but if I did, I would definitely use this book in my game, because it will give the players a lot more options for their characters. And would I recommend this book? If you're going to run a 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons game, then the book is not necessary, but I would recommend it for the simple fact that it adds so much more to your game with the new classes and the new races, and it gives you all those, the last little bits you need to have all the classic races and classes from previous editions of Dungeons & Dragons. But 4th edition is very unpopular for most people, but it does have its fans. One of the great things about 4th edition that I think is that when they came out with 5th edition afterwards, they kept the Warlock as a regular class that you could pick at character creation, and they also kept the Dragonborn and the Tiefling as starting character races that you can pick at character creation, which is pretty cool. So it has had an impact and an influence on Dungeons & Dragons, and so I guess we can give it credit for that, even though it's not very fondly remembered by some. But other than that, that's all I got to say for the Player's Handbook 3 for 4th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Thank you for joining me at a look at this book, and hopefully you'll join me next time where we'll talk about something else. Bye.